Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on this Sunday evening. My name's Stephen Forbes. I'm the Vice President of the Nigeria-Britain Association, and I'm really pleased to welcome you this evening. In a couple of moments, I will be handing over to the President, Mr. Shola Tinubu, to make the opening remarks. But just to say, first of all, how pleased we are that you're able to join us. The Nigeria-Britain Association is an organization that's devoted to friendship for common good between Nigeria and the UK. We hold regular meetup nights, and this is the first meetup night that we've been able to hold since back in February. This event was initially scheduled for the end of March, but unfortunately we were overtaken by the coronavirus and we postponed it at that point. But I'm delighted that we're able to pick it up again now, even if it's only virtually. This is a first for us. This is the first virtual meeting that we've held, and we will also be holding our annual general meeting later this week, which will again be a first for us. That will be the first AGM that we've held virtually, but we're making the best of it. We're working around the technology that we've got and the situation that we find ourselves in. And there are some upsides. We're delighted that you've been joined this evening, not just by many of our regulars from Lagos, but also potential members from further afield, both in Nigeria and also in other countries. So warmly welcome, and I hope that you enjoy this evening. We'll allow the speakers to speak, but then we hope to make it an interactive session, as it would be if this was a live event, and we'll be taking you through how we will manage that. But for now, that's all from me. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm very pleased to hand over to Mr. President for the opening remarks.
Good evening, members and guests. Welcome to our first ever virtual members meetup. I would like to start by wishing you and your families the very best for your health and safety, especially in these difficult times. I would also like to express my profound gratitude to all the health workers who are serving so selflessly on the front lines of this health crisis. As you know, the NBA, the Nigerian-Britain Association, is an association that promotes friendship between Nigeria, Britain, and indeed the Commonwealth, and likewise the exchange of cultures. Today, we have put together a special session themed sexual abuse during the COVID-19 pandemic. Sexual assault is a life-altering event which many survivors are affected by the trauma for the rest of their lives. They may suffer from depression, low self-esteem, flashbacks, fear, and difficulty with intimacy, to name a few. Unfortunately, many of these symptoms are compounded by silence and secrecy. Often survivors of sexual assault do not speak out about their experiences because they are ashamed, they feel guilty, or blame themselves. Some survivors keep silent out of a sense of duty to family or fear of being ostracized for what happened to them. I want to thank our speakers, Mrs. Itoro Eze Anaba and Mrs. Bola Tinubu, for sparing their valuable time to be here to discuss and deliberate on an issue that is slowly making our society hollow and will cause a major collapse of all our value systems if timely action is not taken. Thank you all for joining us and enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. All right. Again, I want to welcome us on behalf of the Nigerian-Britain Association. This is, like it's been said, this is our first virtual July members meetup night. And this is our guest, Itoro Eze Anaba and Bola Tinubu. This is what the evening is going to look like. Already we've taken the welcome address, we've taken the opening remark from the president. I want to introduce myself. My name is Nia Romolano. I am the Honorary Secretary NBA, and I will be your moderator tonight. Our first speaker is the founder of Mirabel Center. She's here with us already. Her name is Itoro Eze Anaba. The second speaker, founder of Siseyara Foundation, Bola Tinubu. They will both speak for 20 minutes, and thereafter we'll have a Q&A, and then Stephen will come back on, and then I will take us through one or two announcements, and then the vote of thanks will be taken by Abimbola Okoya, one of the council members. So let me quickly take us through a bit about Itoro. She's a lawyer, very passionate and actively involved in the promotion and protection of women's rights in Nigeria. In recognition of this active role, he was invited to participate in the U.S. Department of State International Visitors Program and Exchange Program of the Law Society of England and Wales. He schooled in the American University, Washington College of Law in DC, where she specialized in gender and the law. And on her return to Nigeria, she established Partnership for Justice, a non-governmental organization with a mission to provide an inclusive range of services to promote and protect human rights in Nigeria. She's the founder of Mirabel Center, that provides free medical, psychosocial support to survivors of rape and sexual assault. To date, she has helped more than 5,500 survivors, and in March 2020, she set up an engaging in advocacy campaign for its passage into law in 12 states and at the National Assembly. Itoro also has established the Blue Ribbon, the first ever all-male advocacy group campaigning for women's rights. In 2018, our first speaker received Her Majesty the Queen, the Commonwealth Point of Light Award, among several awards in recognition of her work at the Mirabel Center. Also in 2019, Itoro was nominated as a Senior Fellow, Lagos Business School Sustainability Center. She's a researcher and a valuable member of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. I would like us to put our hands together for her. And so you can unmute yourself. Let us acknowledge Itoro. Itoro, I will be allowing you to begin to speak in a few seconds. And she will be speaking around. Itoro, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. You're welcome again. And I know you're going to be speaking around managing the exposure to sexual assault in this time. I will be sharing your slides.
Okay.
Can you permit us this evening? I will be going in and out of slides, so I will stop now and I will be sharing our slides for tonight. Itoro, I have your slides on now. You can carry on. I will change as you request.
Okay, thank you very much, Niyi, and thank you very much, Nigeria Britain Association, for having me on this program this evening. Thank you to all our participants that have joined this evening. I'm expected to speak about managing the exposure to sexual assault during the pandemic, but I'll first of all like to talk about the context within which we operate in Nigeria. And the next slide, I have titled it Pandemic Before the Pandemic. And what I've said is that before the pandemic, we didn't have effective legal framework. There was no coordination among service providers. It was such that different states had different legal framework, and some did not even have at all. And a lot of the states did not even have the framework that was survival friendly. So it was very difficult for a survivor to make any kind of complaint because the law was not favorable to a survivor. And the different service providers carried on their services in isolation, so there was no coordination. And then we had gender discriminatory norms in Nigeria, as well as societal acceptance of gender-based violence. So we could as well have said that there was rape culture in Nigeria, because we had comedians making jokes about rape. We had people apologizing on behalf of their friends. We had Reverend Fathers apologizing on behalf of perpetrators, asking them to forget and forgive, asking the survivors to forget and forgive, because that is what God expected. And so it was being trivialized at all corners, and it was very difficult for a survivor to actually make any kind of report. And so we had a high level of child sexual abuse and as well as rape. And I'm saying it was a pandemic before the pandemic, because at the Mirabel Center, when we started in 2013, we were averaging 25 clients in a month. But sometime in 2015, that number skyrocketed to the extent that we're averaging 85 new clients every month. And we're even having, at times, more than 100 clients in a month. So it was a pandemic before the pandemic. The only problem was that it was not being recognized as such. There was collective silence, and nobody was talking about it, especially when we were talking about the policy makers. So during the pandemic, I have said that there was a higher risk of sexual assault during the pandemic, because everybody was home, and the home is expected to be a safe place. But for a lot of our clients, home was not the safe place. That was where it was happening. And because of the stress, as a result of the crisis, some lost their jobs, there was strained finances. And we also found a lot of women, offering transactional sex because of loss of finances. So a lot of people, quite a number of women, were offering sexual activities in exchange for money in order to feed children. And there was also social isolation. Some of the survivors that would have sought help were cut off from their support system, including the extended family, religious groups, childcare, and schools. And so not just women, even children were also being isolated, and that raised the risk of sexual assault at home during the pandemic. Children were also at risk, because when children witness violence, it affects them, and it becomes a new normal for them. And persons with disabilities also the situation became worse for them, because they had no way of making their reports, especially when we know that the caregivers are actually the ones that are abusing persons with disabilities. And so who were the perpetrators? Who are normally the perpetrators at this time? About 93% of the survivors know their abusers. And these are stepfathers, some are biological fathers, some are cousins, neighbors, uncles. In the Nigerian context, every other person is an uncle. And so that is usually exploited, and children are abused by the so-called, but as a perpetrator. We have older siblings or playmates. We have cousins. We also have very young perpetrators. The Mirabel old abusing another 4-year-old. So it's not necessarily an adult that is a perpetrator. We have younger perpetrators now. The perpetrators also manipulate the systems, the victims, to stay quiet. They coerce or intimidate or threaten the child. And so sexual assault or child sexual abuse is not just a physical violation, it is also a violation of trust and authority. So now I would like to go into what do you do? How do you manage sexual assault if you are abused? If you're a survivor, the immediate step you need to take is to ensure that you are safe. So you have to go to a safe place and move away from, if it is possible for you to move away from the place where the incident took place. Secondly, you should tell a trusted friend. And I underline the word trusted, because it has to be someone that you can trust. It has to be somebody that you know is not going to further traumatize you because you have told the story. It's not going to be someone that will blame you for maybe wearing the kind of, what she thinks is the wrong dressing or going out at the wrong time. So that whoever you tell has to be a trusted friend. Then you have to seek professional help, either medical help, psychosocial support, or you make a report to the police. At times it doesn't go in that direction. At times survivors prefer the psychosocial support. It's always advisable that where there is an emergency or where there's a medical issue, the first step should be for you to seek medical help. For instance, if you're bleeding or if you have a serious wound on you and you need to medical attention. So first of all, make sure you get that medical help. Then you get the therapy from a professional, and then you go to the police. The issue of going to the police is not always compulsory that you go to the police. It's a decision you have to take, whether you want to report to the police or not. But for a child, you have to report to the police because that's the minor that has been sexually abused. But in all this, you always have to remember that it is not your fault. Whatever has happened because someone decided to sexually assault you. So you're not the criminal, you're not at fault, the perpetrator is always at fault. So this a survivor needs to know. We have also noticed that once a survivor becomes convinced that he or she was not at fault, it becomes a completely different scenario, and the person is able to go through the journey of getting healed. It is not your fault is a very powerful statement that should be made to a survivor. Now, when a child confides in you as a parent, it's a completely different thing entirely, because you have to respond with care and urgency. In most times, the child has a wound or is bleeding, so you have to respond with some level of urgency. You have to believe the child. This is also very important because the perpetrator most of the time will tell the child, your mother will not believe you, your father will not believe you, nobody will believe you, you'll be blamed. And so if a child confides in you and you don't believe that child, you're only re-emphasizing what the perpetrator had already told her or him. And so the child would not tell you what happened or if any other thing has happened. So you need to be supportive. You need to stay calm. Most of the time, what we see is when a mother discovers that a child has been sexually molested, she starts beating up that child. At times, pepper is put in the child's vagina. At times, the child is seriously wounded and flogged and all. But that is not the right way to go. You have to stay calm so that the child will have the confidence to tell you what had happened. When you continue to beat the child, you're only enabling the child to take to believe what the perpetrator had said, that the parent or the caregiver does not love him or her. And so you're just re-emphasizing what the perpetrator had said. And so you have to face the problem. The problem is that the child has been abused. And so that is the problem you have to face. That is what the help that you need to get. So you have to reestablish safety. You have to get help. You should not despair. There's always help available. And so when an adult confides in you, what do? Listen. That's the most important thing. Listen to that person. Do not judge. Do not ask, why did you go there? Do not ask, what did you wear? Do not ask, did you struggle? Did you say no? Please do not ask those questions, because the survivor has already asked herself those questions and is already blaming herself. So you need to ensure that you give the support that the survivor needs at that time. Just be there to give the support. That is very important. Just listen. If you don't have anything good to say that is supportive, just don't say anything. Just give the support by your presence. Be patient. Recovery is a journey. It's not your place to say to a survivor, it's a long time ago now, get on with your life. It's not your place to tell a survivor, but let's go out. Why are you still thinking about it? Be patient. Recovery is a journey. And so it's going to take time. Allow the survivor to heal in her own pace within the time that she wants to. It did not happen to you. And there's no one formula that fits the entire process. So people recover in different ways. So allow the survivor to recover on her own journey, the way she wants to recover. So provide necessary information, but do not pressurize the survivor to take decisions when they are not ready. If she doesn't want to go to the police, don't force her to go to the police. Someone told me once that she had to force her to survivor and take her to the police. She had to actually deceive her. The survivor didn't know they were going to the police, but that's not the right thing. Whatever happened to the survivor took away power from her. So for her to heal, you have to give back power to her, which means that she has to take decisions by herself. If you don't give her the opportunity to take that decision, you're further traumatizing her and taking away power from her, and that is not good for her healing. Always remember that it is not your story to tell. So don't be in a hurry to tell others. If she confides in you, keep it to yourself. Don't tell others. Don't run to social media to tell the story. It happened to my friend. Before you tell that story, please take permission from her. It is not your story. It is not your journey. Let her tell it when she's ready. Even if it takes 20 years, it is not your journey. It is not your story. So do not talk about it unless you have permission from her. So where can you get support? In Lagos State, we have the Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. And this team provides coordinated response to survivors of sexual assault. The team is made up of the different responders in Lagos State, including the police, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Education, Youth and Social Development, NGOs that provide care and support, the media, as well as the police, family support units of the police. So once a report is made, there's expedited response as a result of the members of this group. So you can make a report directly to the DSVRT, and you can be sure that they will respond. You can also go to the police. Many of the police stations have what we call the family support unit, and almost all police stations have the gender unit. The family support unit is made up of specialized trained officers who are skilled to deal with the matter of domestic and sexual violence. So you make the reports to them, and they'll give you the support that is needed. They'll take down your statement, carry out the investigation, and take the case to court. It sounds really nice that the police can do this, but I would also say that there are also police officers that have no idea how to deal with this matter. So our plea at all times and advocacy point is always that the police should have more family support units and should also have trained and skilled police officers that can deal with the issue of rape and sexual assault. You can also go to non-governmental organizations that are based in your community, those that have the skills to provide support. I also know that those that do not have the skills to provide support are also in a position to refer to other organizations that can support, give you the support that you need. We all have sexual assault referral centers as well. In Lagos State, we have 3 sexual assault referral centers. We have the Mirabel Center, we have Women at Risk International, we also have the Chichiara Foundation. Mrs. Tinubu will be here to probably speak about Chichiara, but in Lagos State, we have 3 of them. It's a safe and friendly place where you can get free help after going through the trauma of rape and sexual assault. Our goal at the Mirabel Center is to provide holistic and quality services and support to survivors of sexual assault in a compassionate and caring manner, where each individual's specific needs and their rights to make decisions and how to address those needs are respected and met. Individual specific needs, which means that there are no 2 survivors that have the same needs. So you have to provide the needs according to what that individual needs at that particular time. And you have to respect the decisions taken by the survivor. I said it earlier, it's not your story, it's not your journey. All you have to do is provide the support that is needed at any point in time. But you have to respect the decision that is taken by the survivor at any point in time. So what are the services that we provide? We provide free medical examination on drugs, free counseling services face-to-face or through the telephone. During this pandemic, we've had a spike in the number of cases that we see through the telephone. We provide information on the legal system, and we provide help in reporting to the police. Where it is not possible for you to return for any for follow-up cases, we provide We refund the transportation costs, even if you're coming for the first time. Where the services cannot be provided at the Mirabel Center, we refer to other agencies, including the response team, as I said earlier. I know we document everything that comes to the center. And that is why the next slide, we have a summary of statistics, because we document all the cases that come to us. The Mirabel Center was set up in 2013, July 1. So we're just about 7 years old now. What are the number? How many clients have we seen so far? We've seen more than 5,500 clients from July 1, 2013. Now, our youngest client is a 3-month-old baby that was defiled by her father. And the oldest client is a 70-year-old grandma. We've also seen males. We've seen more than 120 males that have come for treatment. And interestingly, majority of male survivors were sexually molested by religious leaders. And more than 85% of the survivors that have come to the center knew who the perpetrators were. So it's not a case of, you're on the street and somebody jumps on you. 85% of those that are abused are known to the survivors. And that's why when I started speaking, I said the survivors, the perpetrators were uncles, fathers, stepfathers, cousins, older siblings, neighbors, your driver, your megad, the security officer, your brother, your brother's friends also are likely perpetrators. And so during this period of the pandemic, well, in the month of March, we had about 54 new clients. In April, because of the lockdown, we had about 24 clients. In May, we had about 50-something clients again. But last month, as a result of the easing, the lockdown, we had about 92 clients. So during this period of the lockdown, in terms of the number that we're seeing, but we know that this month, we're going to see more than 100, because we have already started seeing at times more than 10 new clients in a day. So if you have more than 10 new clients 3 or 4 times in a week, you know that the number is increasing. So during this period, there's need for all of us to be a little bit more careful, to be a little bit more on the lookout. I know that my sister, Mrs. Tinubu, is going to talk about the signs to look out for, the signs, how to know when a child has been abused. So in conclusion, I would just like to say that sexual assault is a violation of human rights. It causes emotional, physical, and psychosocial damage to the survivor that can last a lifetime. I think it was the chair that talked about the psychological trauma. We've had people that have attempted suicide because of rape. We've had an 11-year-old that had a baby as a result of rape. She had a baby at the age of 12. We've had people that have attempted to cut themselves because of the issue of rape. We've had children that are also abusing children. We've had neighbors, we've had fathers, it's happening everywhere. And the emotional trauma that comes with it can last a lifetime. And we've had mothers that said, oh, I was abused at the age of 11. And here I am, 35 years old, I'm married with 2 children. Whenever my husband wants to have sexual intercourse with me, I see the face of the rapist. So I cannot enjoy time with my husband. So it can last a lifetime. So it's not something that should be trivialized. It's not something that we should look away from. It's something that we all need to take action. So now is the time for collective action. Now is the time for individual action. If you're a man, you need to ask yourself, is your immediate circle safe for the women and girls that are with me? If you're a school proprietor, is your school safe? If you're a chief medical director in the hospital, is your hospital safe? If you're a hotel proprietor, is your hotel safe for women? If you're a landlord, you have a house, how safe is your house for women? So we need to begin to look at ourselves individually to see what can we do to make sure that rape and sexual violence comes to a stop. Because silence is a position. You cannot afford to be quiet. If you keep quiet, you're just supporting the perpetrator. because silence is the most powerful tool of a survival. If you keep quiet, he moves on to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and it keeps going on because he's not held accountable. So speak out, spread the word, and remember, you can make a difference. Thank you very much.
Very much, Itoro. Can we put our hands together? I will have said we should stand up to applaud this woman because of her passion. She started by saying the pandemic before the pandemic, and she has ended with, you can make a difference. And I want to change that to, I can make a difference. For all of us on this event tonight, I think one of the things we should take away is that we are now aware. We have been initiated into this national and global challenge. And what we should leave here tonight with is that I can make a difference. So thank you very much again, Itoro. Itoro, you're not leaving here because there's a Q&A. Now, what do we want to do and how do we want to handle the questions and answer? The chat facility on this Zoom call is available for you to begin to post your questions. There are people waiting to extract those questions, and during the Q&A, we will revisit them because we want to bring on Mrs. Bola Tinubu in a few minutes. And so, again, while you're doing that, I will also be stopping the sharing of this particular slide and getting Mrs. Bola Tinubu ready. So please use the chat room to post all your questions that you have, whether it's in the context of what Itoro has interrogated or not, or what you want that to expatiate on. So thank you very much. Mrs. Bola Tinubu, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome and thank you for joining us.
It's my absolute pleasure.
All right, just before you start, we would like to quickly talk to our people about you. Who is Mrs. Bola Tinubu? Again, forgive us that we're using a much younger picture of you, but it speaks volumes about the way we regard you. Okay, I hear that with over 25 years, you're also a lawyer and a business owner. You've been giving advice over the last couple of years. You're a partner in the firm, in the law firm of Olajide Oyewole LLP, a member of DLA Picture Africa, where you lead corporate practice. You have been and you remain the only Nigerian to be awarded the status of Chartered Director by the Institute of Directors, United Kingdom. This is as a testament of your commitment to and special interest in corporate leadership and governance. You serve on the board of several companies, even as the chair of some of those companies and many other non-profit organizations. Another testament to your widely sought after advice on development and expansion of businesses, corporate transactions, board performance matters, as well as corporate crises. Outside your professional calling, you are the founder of Seseyara Foundation, an award-winning non-for-profit organization established to provide services for children who have been sexually abused. The British Broadcasting Corporation has recognized and included you on the annual list of 100 inspiring and influential women from around the world for 2018 for the establishment of Nigeria's first free child helpline and child advocacy center. Your center provides emergency intervention, legal, medical, psychosocial, and child forensic interview services to children who have been sexually abused. All of this for free. You hold a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economic and Social Study from the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, and a law degree from Obafemi Awolowo University. You are also a fellow of the Chartered Governance Institute, United Kingdom, a fellow of the Institute of Directors, UK, and an accredited trainer of the Institute of Leadership and Management in the same United Kingdom. You are a trained child. You enjoy cycling. You're blessed with 5 children. You love photography, even though you say you're an amateur. It's our pleasure to welcome you, Bola, tonight. And I know you're going to be speaking tonight around telltale signs on how you can know whether a child has been abused or not. It is my pleasure on behalf of my president, the vice president, and other council members to welcome you to the floor now. It is time for you to speak, Mrs. Bola Tinubu. Can we make her feel welcome? Can we just appreciate her with a clap and as I bring you on? So I step back and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yi, for that kind introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to the Nigeria-Britain Association for kindly inviting me to speak at this important event. It's a real pleasure to be invited by an association that promotes friendship between Nigeria and Britain. But the truth be told is that I had no choice in the matter as to whether I would attend this event and speak. And that's because the president of this esteemed association is my husband's oldest brother. So for some of you who are familiar with Yoruba culture, I don't need to say anything more. And for those of you that don't, I will ask you to please take that as today's Yoruba lesson or homework. But seriously, the real truth is this, that nobody ever needs to ask me twice to talk about the topic of today's discussion. You know, Nigeria and Britain might be different countries, but of course we have our shared history. We're closely bound together, we always will be. Whether it's by family connections or whether it's by cultural exchanges on so many levels, as well as economic ties. And in today's globalized world, we face many of the same challenges, and that includes child sexual abuse. And particularly during this time, during the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, you know, child sexual abuse is not a topic that any of us wants to discuss. But that just makes it all the more important that we have the courage to confront it head on, and that we're not shying away from this subject. And that's why I would love to thank the organizers for this event for not shying away from this subject. Now, COVID-19 is a deadly pandemic. It's devastating all by itself. And child sexual abuse is a horrific crime, even at the best of times. But what you may not know is that child sexual abuse is also a pandemic of sorts. And for some of us, and that includes me until recently, the question we may ask is, what exactly is a pandemic? Well, the experts say that it's an epidemic that occurs worldwide, that it crosses international boundaries, and that it usually affects a large number of people. Now, again, what may surprise some of you is that the scale of child sexual abuse in Nigeria has reached epidemic proportions. So if we thought that having a pandemic was bad, having 2 pandemics occur at the same time together is almost unimaginable. But that is our reality right now. It's much worse than we can imagine. So how bad was child sexual abuse on a normal day pre-COVID? I want us to do a little exercise. For every single minute that I spend talking to you at this event, 23 Nigerian children will be sexually abused every single minute. So I want you to take out your phones now, please, and to start your stopwatch. At the end of my talk, I would like you to please calculate how many children have been abused while I've been talking to you. We can put that in the chat box so that we have an idea, we have a better idea. Now, what I can tell you is this: 33,000 Nigerian children will be sexually abused every single day in Nigeria. 17 million boys and girls in Nigeria will experience sexual violence before they reach the age of 18. That's 17 million boys and girls. Of these children, 70% will experience multiple incidents of sexual abuse over the course of their lifetime. A lot of them for many years. That is their lifetime experience. Now, I want you to imagine, just for a minute, that there is this disease that only affects children, and that this disease is likely the most prevalent public health problem with the most serious array of consequences that children can face. Now, if this disease existed, wouldn't we, as parents, as human beings, as community leaders, as national leaders, wouldn't we pull out the stops and do everything in our power to stop this disease dead in its tracks, like we're doing with COVID right now? But guess what? We do have this disease. It's called child sexual abuse. And research has indicated that it's likely the most prevalent public health problem with the most serious array of consequences that children face. And what do we do about it? We do nothing. We leave 1 in 4 girls in Nigeria and 1 in 10 boys in Nigeria to deal with a lifetime of secrecy, of trauma, of long-term effects of abuse, all by themselves. And that's why I founded the Checheyara, to provide them with a voice. Some of you may know that Checheyara means save the child in Hausa. So we set up Nigeria's first free 24-hour child helpline so that children can have a safe space to report abuse without any shame, without any fear, and without any guilt. And I believe that we have, since we started, we've received about 19,000 phone calls from children, adults, either reporting or asking for help. And we also set up child advocacy centers. Now, these are the first in the region. And child advocacy centers are regarded as the leading practice all over the world in responding to child sexual abuse cases. So I want you to imagine a girl. Maybe she's 11 years old. Let's call her Tilewa. Tilewa has been raped by her father over the course of the last 4 years, let's say. She's in pain. She's afraid. She's confused. She doesn't know where to turn. And that's where our helplines come in. Children can call us at any time of the day or night. It's a 24-hour service, and they know that they'll be believed. And when Tilewa and her non-offending caregiver come to our center, our child advocates will be on hand. They will alleviate Tilewa's distress. They will determine what steps should be taken. She will be provided with therapeutic care and counseling by a fully trained counselor so that she can heal emotionally. We'll also provide medical care and support so that she can heal physically, and we'll hold her hand throughout the police investigative process, and will ensure that the police have all the evidence that they need for a successful prosecution. We'll also help her to understand the criminal justice system, and we will empower her to stand up in court to hold her abuser accountable. We won't leave her until she's healed, until she has obtained justice, and until she's able to move on. That's our work, and that's what we do every day. I have talked about how prevalent child sexual abuse is. We get hundreds of calls every week from children, from adults, from every single state in Nigeria. And they're all calling to report abuse or for advice about abuse. And I'm sure you all read the news or you see it on social media. It's reported every day. Child sexual abuse is real. One of the things you may wonder about is this, that, okay, where does child sexual abuse happen? And I'll tell you, it's everywhere. At home, in school, on the way to school, within the compound, neighbor's house, in an uncompleted building, in the staff quarters, everywhere. And who does it? As Itoro said, it's everyone. Father, uncle, teacher, nanny, staff, your Quranic teacher, your pastor, your headmaster, your cousin, brother, anyone. But what we also know is this, is that over 90% of the cases, children, people loved by them, and by people who are loved and trusted by their family members. We also know that a significant amount of children are sexually abused by family members and people who live with them. I can't tell you the number of clients that we have that have been raped by their fathers and uncles or someone in their compound. It's rarely a stranger. And that's what makes the double whammy of the tale of two pandemics so crushing. So we know that sexual abuse takes place within a home, whether it's the child's home or whether it's the perpetrator's home. So when the children are confined to their homes for long periods, the risks of abuse are simply heightened. And this is because the abusers have more opportunity to perpetrate their crimes, and the children have nowhere to run. So yes, the lockdowns have been imposed in a bid to control the virus, but they have unintended consequences in terms of the increased risk of abuse. They have provided fewer opportunities for the children to go out, reach out for help. So for example, maybe talking to their teacher or another trusted adult outside their home. And that's why I have never been more relieved, honestly, that there is a helpline available to them. And in the midst of that, of this pandemic, the helpline has literally been a lifeline to children with nowhere else to turn. I remember a case that really brought me down. And this was a girl. She called us right at the beginning of the lockdown. And she called us because every morning when she woke up, her genitals would be hurting, but she couldn't remember anything. A few times she recalled being a bit groggy. She recalled seeing her stepfather shutting the door of her room in the night. And she also recalled that in the evenings before she went to sleep, she would sense that her stepfather was watching her in a strange manner. And she always felt oddly tired in the evening. She suspected that she was being drugged and that she was being raped in her sleep. And unfortunately, her circumstances were such that she wasn't able to tell anyone. And so she decided that, okay, I just won't sleep. So she stayed up for 2 days without sleeping. And when she couldn't take it anymore, that's when she called us. And why this case has stayed with me is because she didn't want to be rescued. She didn't want to give us her name. She gave us no details. She said she just wanted to talk to somebody, and all she wanted from us was for us to tell her how to make it stop. The worst part was that at that time, there was a complete lockdown, so we couldn't even rescue her. So that is the effect of the two pandemics. The isolation measures that are enforced, they actually make child sexual abuse to thrive. And we've seen an increase in the number of reports on our helpline, throughout this period. And all over the world, child helplines are experiencing the same thing, the highest history. And what has happened is that the children's safety net has collapsed totally during this period. Normally, the first people to spot the signs of abuse are adults that are outside the immediate family. So when the children are in school, we would normally get calls from teachers, from guidance counselors, from neighbors, from parents or friends. But once the children were cut off from that support group, it was game, set, and match to the abusers. These children have been stripped from their normal routines and the lifelines when you are being abused at home. they are now isolated from their families, the people that they confide in, and they're isolated from trusted adults. Now, the children who live with their abusers are now in a state of hypervigilance. They are permanently scarred. They're permanently alert. And it's because of the threat of abuse. And the worst part is that they don't know when it's going to end. Now, can you as adults, can you imagine living under these conditions? I can't imagine it. And what the experts tell us is that the stress that these children are facing will have lifelong effects on their mental and physical health. And then we mustn't forget that children are spending more time online now since they're out of school physically. So this puts them at risk, in fact, at great risk of being targeted by strangers through social media, through their apps, through gaming. And it happens in Nigeria. We've been receiving reports, so don't think it's something that just happens in the Western world. Again, while we don't have the data for Nigeria, across the world, police are increased reports. So what can we do? Now, every month, at least 1 million children in Nigeria are sexually abused. And out of these children, only 3% of them actually receive the help that they need. So clearly, we need to do much more to provide that help. And we need to be more proactive in identifying those children and the young people who need our help. Having said that, the last thing I want to do is to encourage a climate of suspicion where we're seeing signs of abuse anywhere. No. But a clear understanding of these signs will allow us to identify those occasions where our suspicions are justified, so that we can distinguish between benign and harmless interactions between adults and children from those that should raise concerns. But we have to start by acknowledging that the problem is real. So we must never dismiss suspicions by telling ourselves, oh, it's probably nothing. Or by assuming that an apparently trustworthy and maybe well-liked person could never be guilty of abuse. However, and very sadly, the traditional and cultural norms and values that we have that are within our communities mean that too many abusers are allowed to get away with it because people are afraid to question their motives or to challenge the abuser's authority. But when a child's safety and a child's protection is concerned, I believe that we have to be a little bit braver. In fact, we have to be a lot braver. And we must raise these questions even when it's uncomfortable to do so. So what are the signs to look out for? Well, there are two main types of signs, and they are physical and behavioral. So physical signs are evidence of that direct physical harm caused by sexual abuse. And that will include pain, itching, maybe burning in the genital area, as well as bleeding, bruising, or swelling in those areas. And they can also include a child that has difficulty walking or sitting. And of course, bloody or stained or clumped or always arouse suspicions. But often such physical signs are not apparent. And in fact, most of the time, they are not apparent. And it's either because the abuser takes care to avoid leaving lasting evidence, or because the child herself or himself makes an effort to hide these signs out of shame, out of fear, out of embarrassment. And that is completely normal. That is what is normal. Children do not talk about it. And that is why it's important to look out for those behavioral signs, which may include secretiveness or a sudden self-consciousness about a child's own body. So for instance, maybe a formerly affectionate child who begins to shrink away from physical contact, or especially a child who seems to think of herself or her body as repulsive, as dirty or bad. That child could very well be reacting to sexual abuse. And in the same vein, it's important to notice sudden changes in hygiene habits. So whether it's a child that is refusing to have a bath or is bathing excessively. And of course, any precocious sexual behavior should be a red flag. This could include maybe the child asking other children to behave sexually or play sexual games. When a child is mimicking adult-like behaviors, sexual behaviors with toys or stuffed animals, or touching themselves in overtly sexual and unchildlike ways. And you'll be shocked at the number of calls we get from teachers who say, my 3-year-old in my class or my 6-year-old in my class appears to be trying to achieve some sexual gratification in class, and she doesn't really know what she's doing, but that's what it appears like. And that is what we see, and that is a sign. And while children are often reluctant to bring up their worries about something that's happening to them directly, they sometimes leave clues. So for example, they may hint at sexual issues in the hope that you as a trusted adult will grow concerned and take the initiative by asking more direct questions. They are looking to you to take that initiative. So it's important to be alert to that possibility. Now, abusers often convince children to keep their little secret. So secretiveness is a particularly telling clue, just as the appearance of new toys, new gifts, or even money without explanation, because abusers will sometimes try to bribe the child into silence. And of course, if a child develops a new or unusual fear of certain people, this is another indication that something is amiss. Another thing is this: child survivors of abuse sometimes resign themselves to suffering in silence, but they will resolve to protect their siblings from the same fate. So another telltale sign is a child assuming a caretaker role and becoming overly protective of siblings or other children that are close to them. Other behavioral signs can be much more general. For example, nightmares, bedwetting, sudden mood swings, anger, fear, insecurity, or withdrawal. Sometimes a child may exhibit regressive behavior, such as thumb sucking after they've stopped. All of these types of things should raise suspicion. And certainly any sign of depression, phobias, self-harm, suicidal thoughts should be thoroughly investigated. So those are some of the signs that a child may be suffering from.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I know if I let you carry on,
Yes.
I know because this is something that is you're passionate about, and this is something that should be of major concern to all of us. But I need to stop you at this point to allow, there's been quite a number of questions. But before we go into the Q&A, I would like Stephen, the Vice President, to say a few things for 1 minute before we go to the Q&A.
Nee, can I just ask you to do something? I asked the members.
Yes, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to the calculation of the number of young people, 23, and the number of, yes, I'm going to come to the first person to post the correct answer in the chat room right now will get a presidential gift. I don't know what it will be, but the president will confirm it. So the first person, Leke, please let me keep an eye on the chat room. The first person to get the correct answer to our question. You did say that 23 children in a minute. Oyelaki says 520. Does anyone have any contrary figure to 520? 520. Okay, so Ronke, Stephen, you have the floor. I'm sure Leke will tell us if there's any contrary, and the first person who put 520 in the chat room.
Okay, well, thank you, Nii. While we're counting up the minutes of that speech, I'd just like to thank both speakers for a really lucid set of discussion points that they've raised, very passionately delivered, incredibly moving in some cases, particularly when talking about individuals who they've come across in the course of their work. And I was struck by a number of things that resonated in both of their presentations. One is about the importance of believing people when they come to us, not just sort of dismissing them, not asking, are you sure, can this really be so, but starting from the point of believing. The other thing that resonated in both of the talks was the lifetime effects that abuse or assault can have on people, especially psychological effects. And you know, if you're a child, that is a long, long time to bear the scars of some of the things that have been done to them. I was struck also by the themes of secrecy. This is something that's very familiar to us in the UK. I know many people think that there's something about Nigerian culture. It's not just Nigerian culture. That secrecy exists in many, many societies. And in our own society in the UK, we had a very famous child television presenter called Jimmy Savile, who was able to get away with child abuse for year after year after year because nobody spoke up. Nobody really challenged him. Nobody really started to question what he was doing. And only after he died, when the scandal really burst, that all of the really awful things that he had done came to the fore. I was also struck by the shame people feel, and it's, you know, the widespread effects this has on children, on women, and also on men, and the fact that we're not reaching enough of the people who need help at the moment. And I'd just like to finish by thanking not just our speakers, but the organizations that they represent, the Cheche Yara Foundation, and also the Mirabel Center. The Mirabel Center, I know, has inspired a number of other sexual referral centers across Nigeria. It was the first one here in Lagos, but has also set in train a whole load of others. And also has inspired organizations, both private organizations, commercial organizations, and also donors such as the EU, to really get behind this movement and to provide the kind of support that's needed. I have loads and loads of questions I would like to ask, but I will leave that for another time and hand over to our compere, to our moderator, who I think is going to direct the questions. But thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Mrs. Bola Tilumbu needs to leave at 5:45 because she has another engagement. And so if you have direct questions for Mrs. Tinumbu, I would like to take that first. Itoro, I apologize immensely that we are keeping you longer than expected, but she had indicated that she wanted to leave. Leke, the first question directed to Mrs. Tinumbu, can you take it now? Good evening.
All right, I have the first question here that says, can we also create anonymous reporting tools? I know some people are ready to speak up, but are scared of being identified.
Yes, you're absolutely right. This is a concern that we've seen over the years. And when you report to an organization like ours, our helplines are fully confidential. And that is the promise that will assure you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other question, Leke? There was something about directed at a young child. I came across that in the chat.
Yes, there was a question about, well, I think it was more of a statement to say he had a case with a reverend father January this year. It was a comment by one. Oh, it said treated a similar case in January. Where a different pastor was drugging his 8-year-old housemaid on the night. He wants to molest her. He has been charged to court, and the girl has been put in a home. That was a comment from Taiwo Ojo. There are other questions to say, how are the rape victims taken care physically, emotionally by the government?
Okay.
Right. In terms of response to survivors of child sexual abuse, it varies across the country, I have to admit. So in a state like Lagos and a number of states, there's a very robust framework in place where you have not only the government, but you have NGOs that are working with the government that are able to provide a holistic support system. So for example, an organization like ours, we respond using a multidisciplinary approach so that everyone that a child needs to see is in one center. And we have a number of these centers across Nigeria. We have 3 so far. So you have your child advocates, you have your lawyers, you have your forensic interviewers, you have your social workers, you have the medical personnel. All of them are in one place. And the reason why we do this is that when a child is traumatized, what you don't want to do is to re-traumatize that child by taking that child to different agencies. So once we're able to support that child, if the child needs to be rescued, there are a lot of fantastic and wonderful shelters for children that are government approved, where we are able to place those children. And the objective for children who are placed in shelters is to just keep them for a minimum amount of time in order for you to for them to heal, but also for you to ensure that they're put back into their family situation. So we'll look for their non-offending family members that can support them, and that way they're able to integrate back into their former lives.
Okay, right. I have one more question for Mrs. Tinubu. He said, in a minor to minor incident, how is the prosecutor supposed to be handled?
It all depends. And this is a very good question. It's always a very delicate case. It depends on the extent of the abuse. It depends on the factors that are involved. But in some cases, a child may be, an offending child may be referred to a juvenile home. They may be referred to counseling to try and ensure that that behavior is reversed. In a case where there's a disparity between the ages and it's an older youth, then the law may be invoked. But the important thing is this, that there are laws that specifically address juvenile offenders, and they do take into consideration the fact that they are children and that their rights as children are protected.
All right, thank you. Hold on, Leke. It's Toro, you can unmute. I need to seek your permission and understanding to allow us to make a presentation and appreciation to Mrs. Tinubu so that she can leave at 4:45. I need your permission. Is that okay with you, ma'am?
It's very much okay with me. She's my sister.
All right. Stephen, I will ask you to do the honors of presenting the virtual certificate of appreciation to Mrs. Tinubu, and then we will get the hard copy to her in the week ahead. Stephen.
Okay, thank you very much. This is definitely a first for me. I've never given a virtual certificate before, but just imagine me handing it over to you. Thanks very much for attending one of our meetup nights. Thank you for a wonderful presentation, and I'm delighted to give you this certificate of appreciation.
Thank you all so much. And I do have to apologize that I have to leave early. Unfortunately, actually had a long-standing engagement. Itoro, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to listen to your entire presentation, but I caught the last half of it, and it really pepped me up and put a step in my, and put some ginger in my step again. And for some of you that didn't know, before I started thinking about the Checheya Foundation, Itoro was the first person I spoke to about this work. So she's a very important person in this journey that we're all in together. So thank you so much, Itoro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bola Tinubu. We appreciate your coming. And we know that we're still going to do a 202. This is the 101 version of this, because this is not a situation that we can just deal with at once. So we will call on you again. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the remaining Sunday, and we wish you a lovely week ahead. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you all so much. Bye for now.
All right there. All right, Leke. Itoro, I am going to totally unmute you now. The floor is all yours. Leke, can you now go through the questions again for
Okay. The first question for her is, can we also create an anonymous reporting tool? I have some people are ready to speak up about scared, but are scared of being identified. So the person is requesting for an anonymous reporting tool.
Yes, we can. Actually, like Mrs. Tinubu said, if you call any of the hotlines, those hotlines provide anonymity for you to be able to make any kind of report. Same with the ones in the Mirabel Center. We don't have to give your name. It's not, you don't have to provide information that is not necessary, but whatever information you give is going to be held in confidence. So confidentiality is a key principle for any sexual assault referral center or any first responder when it comes to issues of sexual assault and rape. So yes, but in addition to that, the Mirabel Center will very soon launch an app that will also enable you to report anonymously with video and pictures, and you actually just call as an emergency and I will take it up from there. But I can assure whoever asks the question that whoever you call, whether it's a DSVRT, I can also speak about that, or Mirabel Center, you'll be treated with the highest level of confidence.
All right, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, there's this question that says, my major concern is the unavailability of homes for survivors because of this COVID-19. Homes and shelters because of the fear of infection. Residents refuse to accept new survivors. The tests for COVID-19, I guess, are hard to come by, and homes and shelters do not have isolation centers for new survivors. How do we get past this hurdle?
That's a very serious one, because we're faced with that situation as well. We had a young girl that was about 7 months pregnant and she needed a shelter, but we couldn't get her into any shelter without her COVID-19 negative test. And that took us a while, took us a long time. And many of the government's offices were shut at that time. So it's a serious problem. And we're in discussion with the government and telling the government that right from the onset, there should have been a gender perspective to the response of COVID-19, in recognition of the fact that women have different needs during a pandemic or an epidemic of this sort. Now, there's now in place a procedure for a survivor to be tested expeditiously so that she doesn't have to stay for 5 days or 4 without getting the test. Well, the test is needed because she cannot go into a shelter and be open to infection, either from her or from other survivors that are in the shelter. So what some of the organizations have done is to put a survivor in some hotels or some temporary homes where the test can be carried out. And once the test is negative, she's now transferred to the home where she's supposed to be. But like I said, well, we're discussing with the government about this, and I know that the Lagos State government is very responsive, in particular about the issue of shelter. And we're also asking them to build more shelters, because if there are government shelters available in at least all the senatorial districts, it will make it easier for people to access the shelter when needed. So it's a major concern for everybody.
Okay. The next question is in two parts. The first one says, what is done in the case of where the perpetrator is dead before the act is discovered or reported? Then the second part is, this person is asking for the email address of the first speaker and the second speaker.
Okay,
Hello?
what happens? I'm right here. What happens where the perpetrator is dead before the act is discovered? That's
Yes.
serious, because investigation and prosecution has to start with the police. And when you have a police force that does not have the skills to even investigate cases where the perpetrator is still alive, it becomes a lot more difficult for the police to investigate a case where the perpetrator has died. We have police officers that, when you make the report, they ask the survivor to give you money to go to the crime scene. You have to provide, you have to, and he gets to the crime scene and he doesn't know what to do. Then he now tells you, when you see the perpetrator, please inform us. So the survivor becomes the investigator, as well as having to deal with trauma of the incident that she had gone through. So the solution to it all is for us to have a special police force or police unit that deals directly with the issue of rape and sexual violence. I said earlier on that the Lagos State government, or in Lagos State, we have family support unit, but how experienced or skilled or how well-funded is such a unit? If it's not well-funded, then the essence of that unit is not going to be felt. We do have police passionate about it. They're using their own funds to investigate and ensure that survivors have get justice for what had been done to them. But we need to have a more coordinated response at the state level as well as the federal level. Until we do that, prosecution will continue to be a major problem for us in Nigeria. And then on the issue of the email, I
was going to speak about that, Itoro.
Yeah, put it up.
In every participant we get, with your permission and Mrs. Bola Tinubu's permission, we will be posting the contact details of Itoro and Bola at the end of the program. That is our commitment to all of you. So, Leke, we'll take two more questions and then we move on. Yes.
Okay. I'll take these questions because we have all been talking about female. So let me read these two questions that have to do with male children. It says a lot of male children are abused by aunties and house helps, and this set of male children grow up to believe that the only way to achieve sexual is via abuse. To achieve sexual dominance is via abuse. How can this be curbed? Taking into note that the majority of the sexual abuse cases are forced on the female gender, and majority of these male kids see their molestation as bragging rights among peers. Hello, ma.
Yes, I'm right here. Thank you very much for that question. It is very true that male children are also being sexually molested. In fact, a lot of male children experience their first sexual intercourse from an adult that is known to them, either their mother's friends or their mother's, their aunties or their next door neighbors, or someone in the community. It happens a lot. At the Mirabel Center, we've seen over 120 males that sexually molested. Interestingly, those we have seen at the Mirabel Center are those that were molested by men. Like I said earlier, most of them are religious leaders. But I want to say that the impact on a woman or a man is the same. It's the guilt, the shame, the lifetime consequences are the same. In the case of a male child, the male child begins to brag about it, and he sees that like the person asked the question, the bragging right, forgetting that there are consequences. You begin to see a male child that forms more relationship with an adult, with a female adult. You begin to see the male child believing that violence is a way to go in a relationship with the opposite sex. So those are consequences that we do not look at when we are bringing up the boy child. So we allow the boy child to believe that there is power, or that as a male child, he has to exhibit power in different ways. So we have to go back to questioning toxic masculinity in our community. How do we bring up the male child? How do we allow them to express themselves when it comes to love and relationship with the opposite sex? So if you're an auntie, or if you're a woman that is sexually molesting a male child, that is rape. So the perpetrator should also be treated the way male perpetrators are being treated. We had a case of a woman that was pregnant for a 13-year-old child, and that was a gross abuse of that 13-year-old child, who did not say anything, did not speak out until she was caught in the act by the father of that 13-year-old child. So the abuse of a child, whether it is male or female, is against the law and should be treated as such, whether it is a male perpetrator or a female perpetrator. It is true that we are focusing more on women, because women, issues of gender-based violence resonate more with women, or women are more in the majority when we're talking about survivors. But that does not mean that we do not have male survivors. We have them, but a lot of them are keeping quiet. And so we should also encourage them to speak out and seek help. In fact, a short survey that was carried out by the response of those that they were victims of child sexual abuse. And so where it happens, where a boy child is exposed to sexual abuse as a child, there's a tendency for that child to abuse as he gets older, because that abuse has been normalized in his life, and he believes that is how it's supposed to be. So there's need for care, there's need for support, there's need for justice, there's also need for this for the predator to be held accountable, whether it's male or female.
Thank you very much, Eat. We will not be able to take any further question. But at the end of the program, we'll again put up the contact details for both Itoro and Bola, and the conversation will continue. We send our appreciation for everybody that was online today. We will share with you more information. Thank you very much, Itoro. We thoroughly appreciate the depth and the wealth what you have shared with us today. I'll be inviting the president, Mr. Tinubu. Please unmute yourself and let us appreciate Itoro with a virtual certificate of appreciation.
Well,
thank you.
What can I? This time of handing over an e-certificate, the expression of gratitude that we have to for all the work that you do. You know, our society owes you a big debt. To share some of the things you shared with us today is one thing, but thinking about all the work that you do day in, day out, just being the conscience of our own society, you know, we can't thank you enough for that. But as president of the Nigerian Britain Association, my mandate here is actually to give you this certificate in appreciation of your work and your sharing your work and some of the things that you've taught us today. I do hope that this is just a beginning, that that by this session you have raised awareness amongst a lot of our members and guests on the platform today, and many of them will be getting in touch, not just out of just curiosity to know, but to assist and to help to save our own society. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And on behalf of all of us at the Mirabel Center, I want to say thank you very much to Nigeria Britain Association for inviting me. We have a long-standing relationship with the UK. Actually, the very first grant, after 10 years of looking for funds to set up the center, came from the British Council with support from the DFID. And the whole idea of setting up the Mirabel Center came as a result of my visit to St. Mary's Sexual Assault Referral Center in UK. So the connection cannot be broken. So we're here, and we're very grateful and thankful to the British Council and DFID for the confidence they had in us in giving us the money to open the very first Sexual Assault Referral Center, where many other donors had denied us the funds, saying that it was not going to work. But they're with us and they're still with us today. So we are very grateful to them. And personally, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much, Stephen, for calling me about it, and Temitope. Thank you very much for having me. It was my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Itoro. Indeed, we are grateful for that. We're winding down gradually. Like I said, it's always my pleasure as your moderator, as your anchor. I'm the Honorary Secretary of the Nigerian Britain Association. It's a Friendship for Public Good association, and I'm going to be asking Stephen to speak about the opportunities that people who have been asking, how can I be part of what you guys are doing? So Stephen, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and please speak about how interested participant on this event can join and what the NDA is about. The floor is yours, Stephen.
Okay, thank you very much, Nee, and I won't speak too long. We've had some fantastic presentations this evening, and I think it just goes to show that we're just starting to touch the surface of the kinds of activities that we can do in the Nigeria Britain Association, not just some of the cultural events, but also some of the things that really make a difference from a social perspective and assisting the general public good, which is also one of our objectives. Just to mention, though, I know we've had over 80 people on the call today, and not all of them are regular members of the Nigeria Britain Association. But if they would like to become members, then they can get in touch with us. We will put up the contact details later on, but they just need to contact info@nigeriabritain.org. It's possible either to become a member as a corporate organization, that's more expensive, or as an individual, or if you're in the age group of 18 to 35 to get a special discounted rate for joining the association. We have a really exciting program of activities coming up. This year we will be running both for an opportunity to connect with each other, but also to hear the caliber of speakers of the kind that we've heard today. So I'd just like to end by thanking the speakers once again and encouraging, if you're interested in joining us, to hang on the line or to get in touch with us via email, and we'd be very happy to give you more details about how to become a member. Thanks very much.
Stephen, thank you very much. The second thing we'll be doing for all participants on this event is when we send our appreciation to you, we'll also send the links and the contact for all the guests, and we'll also send to you the brochure of how you can become a member. And if you like to reach out to us, a few people have asked already earlier on, and we have gotten back to them. Like Stephen said, there are one or two other will leave. The first thing is the MBA AGM, which is coming up on July the 23rd, Thursday. This is for members. Save the date. And it also is going to be virtual. Now, the August members meetup night, something similar to what we've done, will be on Sunday, August 6th. You have a telephone number there that you can call, 081-258-58837. And you can also send a mail to us. Let me call that number again, 081-258-58837, info@Nigeria-Britain. We don't know what it will be, but definitely we look forward to having you join us. And then in the same August, on the annual lecture series. And that also will be coming up sometime in August, and we'll be sending you the details. It will be something also that is spot on, that speaks to the challenges we're all going through right now, and it's global. Now, I need to also remind us that there's something we do in our physical meeting that we have translated to the online. All our virtual screens from the next program will be dedicated to event sponsors, beyond having a page that recognizes and appreciates our event sponsor. So for example, the page for event sponsor recognition will be something like this. So we have Skip, we have British Council, we have the Nehemiah, we have NEM, and every one of those sponsors will be dedicated to this page. Again, if you like to find out a bit more about that, do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We will give you more details about how you can put your company, your brand. This page is called the Event Sponsor Recognition and Appreciation page. We don't want you to run off. We're going to take the vote of thanks very soon. But before we do that, I'm going to invite the President, Mr. Shola Tinubu, back to just say a closing remark on behalf of the Nigerian Breeding Association and the Council, and then I will invite one of the Council members to give the vote of thanks. And then we will keep the forum open for about 10 minutes for us to chit-chat, network, say hello to people you haven't seen in a while. Mr. President.
Well, thank you, Nee. Just a word to say thank you to everyone for turning up. We're obviously in a different era now, where we're doing a lot of things electronically. For an association that's based on building friendship, we've been accustomed to meeting with each other physically, and that's what we do, because that's how we socialize as human beings. You meet each other, and we shake hands. Look to be so benign that are now amongst the things you must not do. You must not touch. You must not. And if you see each other, it should be, with a little slit above a mask and stuff like that. But this is where we have found ourselves. This is the new normal. This is what we should embrace, so that we will be able to beat this virus without it, causing more harm to our society. So we've moved electronically now, and we're now ensuring that all our events have electronically empowered. And as we move in that line, we obviously try and ensure that we continue to build friendship. We continue to ensure that the friendship between Nigeria and Britain and the Commonwealth continues to be enhanced. And our members will continue to be relating with you, and we'll ensure that we have so many other events coming on. We are going for, we're really pushing for a membership drive as well. So it's also to increase the membership, because we think the more, the merrier actually. There's so many things going on right across the world now. And we know that this is the time for us to ensure that we build these bridges, build friendships. And for that, I know I can rely on a very very strong leadership in the council to be able to support this direction. Thank you so much, everybody. Nee, are you with us?
Thank you very much. I'm with you, Mr. President. Mr. Demola Adesoya, one of our council members, will kindly oblige us to give the vote of thanks, and thereafter we will open the platform. Everybody can unmute themselves, say hello to faces you haven't seen before. You can continue to use the chat facility. If this is your first time joining us, please say hello to us, wave to us, give us a goodwill message. Mr. Demola Adesoya, please.
Thank you very much, Nee. I want to formally say on behalf of Nigerian Britain Association, we thank you all for attending this virtual meeting. As virtual as it is, I can see the rapt attention because of the topic, and I can see that everybody is interested to keep our community safe. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope to see you, if you're not already a member, as a member. Do have a wonderful weekend and a blessed week.
All right, I see Fashuyi Temi Tope Temi Dara. Are you raising your hand to say something before I open up everybody? We'd like you to unmute, show us your face. Yes, you can unmute yourself. We're giving you permission to unmute. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, Tony says my first time. Please, we're all welcome to unmute ourselves, and you can speak.
Nee, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. We don't want to go.
Hi, everyone.
We don't want to go.
Yes, so.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you
Very
very
wonderful
much.
gathering today.
Hi, everyone.
Well,
Hi.
Good job, well done.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, first time here from Chicago.
Wow.
thank you very much. I hope you're keeping safe. You're staying indoors in Chicago.
All of us should keep safe. Koro is everywhere.
It's real.
It will, by the grace of God, it will go back to where it came from.
Amen.
Amen, 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 amen.
Amen. Yeah. Gio.
All right,
Yes, we are here.
this something a good news message from somebody else.
We are here playing, you know. Promos return back to where it came from.
For a job well done.
This time, thank you very much.
The thing just turned us to ninja. Suddenly we're
Good
like
evening,
ninja.
everybody. My name is Nkiru, and I'm here to. I attended the program to support my boss, Mrs. Toro.
All right, you're welcome. In Kiro.
Well done, well done.
Welcome, Nkiru.
Thank you.
You said you had a good
Yes, good evening.
In Mirabel Center.
Yes, she was. She was one of our best.
I am so proud to see the work, but it broke my heart to see that we now have 120 boys. And it just goes to show that
more than 100.
That's crazy. So the myth, there's that myth, and it's apparently still there, that only men are perpetrators. We have women who are perpetrators too. So we all need to wake up to that. But great job, guys, and thank you to this organization for opening our eyes more. Well done.
Thank you very much. Who else is saying something? Who else is sharing their thoughts, their mind?
Me, since we cannot have a physical meeting and give us drink, we are managing something at home.
All right, so let everybody.
I like that.
Interesting.
God will help us with this.
I want to believe that we're all looking forward to the series, and I want to also believe that we're looking forward to the next. Let me use Itoro's words. It's time not to find about what MD is doing with all these partners. It's time to spread the news. It's time for each person to take responsibility. I'm going at the next of night, and I'll be coming to New York. Okay, we're going down from 80 to 51. Thank you.
Nice hearing your voice.
Ajayi? It hasn't changed. Thank you very much, Keboderi Kendi from Human Development Initiatives. Kenny, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I hope you will drop your contacts in the chat room so that we can know you were here with us.
Okay, I'll do that just now.
What do you guys do, Kenny? We'd like to know, what do you guys do?
Human Development Initiative is an NGO. Mainly into advocacy. Then we do more of an abuse, like gender-based violence. We do more of that too.
Right. So that means we will definitely align with Itoro. Okay.
Yes.
Ronke also, thank you very much. So you will definitely align with Itoro and Mrs. Bola Tinubu.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Okay, I'm trying to keep abreast of what's going on in the chat room. Who else is saying something to us? Mr. Desanya, what's the outlook for summer holiday? You can unmute. Mr. Desanya, you have to unmute. I know that was your sector. That's your
the outlook for summer holiday is to continue to spend more time with your family at home. Actually, there's been projection that the airport is going to be open towards the end of August, first week of February, first week of August, towards the end of July. But now we realize that there's a change of plan, and so if the airport is not open, international airlines cannot operate. Be that as it may, some very, very wealthy Nigerians are still going around on private jets, on charter flights, and so it's not making the government to be eager enough to open the airport.
But do you reckon that even if the airports open and international flights commence, people will be very eager to travel?
Let me paint this scenario. If, for instance, 100 people were traveling before, maybe you are 45 now, that people are eager to travel, yes, of course. I get messages every day. When is the airport opening? My ticket is going out of fashion. My ticket is over 1 year. I need to use it. I don't want to lose it. just be rest assured, if you have a ticket, I will tell you, remain calm. No ticket will expire. All airlines have decided to allow tickets to be valid for 2 years. So do not panic. Do not rush into changing any dates, making any plans.
What
But
is
some
the
cities, some people will still go out. Some will stay.
What's the implication and what's the risk element when people travel and they return? Will that affect the rise?
My brother, the obvious risk element is that there may now be possible growth of number of infected people. Because as people go around, if they're not careful enough, which is the major factor here, careful wherever they go to, they're likely to come back and infect people.
We're all keeping our fingers crossed. We're praying, trusting that things will return to normal as quickly as possible.
By the grace of God. By the grace of God.
Itoro, you want to say something? Let me unmute you. Why don't you mute yourself since you're still here with us?
I just want to say it's I don't know how we can convince everybody that the virus is in Nigeria, because we still have quite a number of people going out to say it's a hoax, it's not in Nigeria, and people are just moving around without taking the necessary precaution. So that's, for me, it's a major problem. You go out and you see in a community, nobody is with a mask. And I was on a radio program and someone phoned in to say that there's no coronavirus in Nigeria. And that was just about 3 days ago. And people are dying. So if you come on the radio and say it's not in Nigeria, what message are you passing on? And I would also like the government to, go to the communities and provide the information that is needed. Local government areas, what are they doing? The local government councils, what's their responsibility? Instead of just being on Twitter and giving us a number of people that have died. And then the community people will tell you that it's just the rich men that are dying, that it's rich man disease. They don't care. Yes. So if you can tell them the people that so the information that needs to be shared should go down. Do you access that community of people that cannot see you, cannot read it, cannot do anything? I find it's really heartbreaking for me.
Sorry, I think the message out there is that people are assuming, because of the silent stigmatization, it's so silent, but it's there. So people don't want the next person to think I am, because everybody will start avoiding you. Now, because of that, even those who have, that the government should use to do advocacy, to educate the other people and say, this person had it, he survived it, and he will tell you what he went through. They will not do it, because then people will assume, oh, you have it, I better run away from you. So it's a silent stigmatization. So people are now God will help us. He needs to go. He just needs to go. I don't know how we are. He just needs to go.
Has to go.
It's not. He just.
I want to think that one thing the government should include in the awareness drive is maybe doing pictures but not identity. Pictures that don't show identity, for people to see people that are dying, people that are Then without anything about their identity at all, they are facing or not speaking or people that have been taken for very because people they don't believe, like you said, and I don't know what will make them believe.
You know, on this matter of Corona, I think it's just you have a similar issue to the topic we had in today. You have an issue where society sometimes is in self-denial, and the self-denial sometimes is just a convenient truth, because sometimes they're holding on to it because it is the easiest thing to hold on to in terms of the truth. But when you interrogate it, you realize that on some level they know that it may exist, but really their challenges are different. They feel it is uncomfortable to protection. They think that it is also they don't have enough either finance or wherewithal to stay in a lockdown, and those are the things that are more paramount to them. Now, I also believe that the first thing we need to do is let people, who have had the encounter, to be able to come out and talk about it. I mean, I encountered the COVID on the 15th of March, even long before the shutdown, and it was obviously something that on every platform I went, I mentioned it. But I was always met with, it's a good thing that you're so open. But the thing about it is that there's nothing around it. It's sometimes these things happen to you for no fault of yours. So why is it stigmatized? In fact, anyone who has had it and survived, probably one of the lucky ones, because you've survived. The people who have not had it yet probably are more, disposed to having it now in case, if they're exposed to it. So you then find out that it is just about being more open and convincing more people to be more open about it. It's right there. But I also believe that sometimes when survivors talk about it, they encourage people to even think, so it's not so bad anyway. You survived it, so why should I be afraid? But it's coming from the guys who read the stories we really need to tell are the guys who didn't survive it at all, and it is the ones left behind that must authorize the use of their experience to help other people understand how terrible it was and how it ended up. But we're right in the middle of it. We are going to learn one way or the other, whether it is because we allow it to really just go through our society, and then the deaths become significant and the injuries become significant.
So the rain.
Thank you, everybody. We have less than a minute to close, and we want to say a big thank you to everyone that has stayed on. Okay, Infinite, even we don't know your name. Bolale Ajibola, thank you. Damola Lakite. Okay. Yinka Fado June. Thank you, Kenny. Francis Dante, you guys have stayed with us. You were one of the best people to sign on. Ajuke, thank you very much. Itoro, thank you so much. You stayed right from the beginning. Chinwe, thank you so much. We trust that the next time we send out an invitation to join us, seminar, virtual seminar. Night, you will also be there with us. Director series, all of these announcements are going to be going out for our upcoming program. Again, on behalf of the president and the entire council and members of the MDA, I want to say a big thank you for staying with us, joining us. And don't keep silent. Please spread the message and take responsibility. Encourage someone who is a victim. Find a way. After now that we've been exposed, we know what to do. And so we want to say a big thank you so much. Thank you, Secretariat. Thank you so much. Thank you, members of the committee. Stephen, thank you. Leke, Demola, thank you, everybody. Mr. President, thank you again. So, a pleasant Sunday and a great week ahead to everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Until the last person.
Okay, anyway.
Ola, nice having you on as well. Where did you hide? Ola Jumoke, thank you very much. Jide Adeyemi, thank you very much. Ola Iton, thank you. Simon, thank you. EA Deleke, thank you. Alangozi, thank you. Tabure, thank you very much. Oh, you must have been on the other page. Thank you so much. We can go until the last person leaves the meeting.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Judith.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ajoke Iwita, she's connecting back on. Simon, thank you very much. Well, she just come back on.
This is a light song. Bye.
Ajoke, you can unmute and say something to us, even though we can't see your face. Infinite Spot 7 would like to see your face.
Good evening, everyone.